Hi, this is Heather with Spirits Freedom Farm, and today we are going to make meatloaf. Okay, so today we are going to make meatloaf from scratch. I like to put peppers and onions in ours. One thing that I have done when my youngest was a little younger and she was picky, I would puree the vegetables, the peppers and onions, because she couldn't see it and it worked pretty well that way. And she didn't mind it if she couldn't see it, so the flavor didn't bother her that much. So, and then I'm going to add this to, I have a pound of ground beef and a pound of ground pork right here. Just going to add all of this into that. And I'm just roughly chopping. We're not too picky on exactly being just so. I do recommend though to, before you make anything, of course, having together all of your ingredients, making sure you have it all together. I say that because I'm realizing right now there's one ingredient that I don't have over here. But that makes sure that you have everything that you need, and that if it's a new recipe, you've read through it, you know exactly the tools you need, the time it takes, and all of that. I find that very helpful for any new recipe. And then just, even if it's an old recipe, going and collecting all the ingredients. If you want to use fancy French words, you can call it mise en place, very fancy French cooking words. So we got peppers finished, and then we'll cut up our onion. I'll finish cutting up that pepper in a minute here. We'll get our onion cut up. Like I said, we don't worry about getting it just so. We don't mind rustic food. But do wash your fingers. That's a tip to myself, because I am good at cutting myself when I'm chopping too quickly, or when using the mandolin without the guard. Not so good. Alright, to this we will add 2 eggs from our very own chickens. And we'll save these. All this leftover bits have good use, so we're going to save those. Okay. Okay, so now to this we are going to make our own ketchup. This is going to be a gluten-free recipe, and when you buy ketchup at the store, even organic ketchup, has white vinegar in it, which could contain come from grain. And so I'm going to use apple cider vinegar instead of white vinegar, and we're going to go ahead and make our own ketchup right inside the bowl here. So I've got about 6 ounces of tomato paste right here. Clove powder. A note for clove powder, don't use too much. I made some pumpkin butter this last fall. I would say about 1/4 teaspoon of clove powder. And cinnamon, I would say about 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. then garlic powder. We like garlic, so I'm going to use about a teaspoon or so of garlic. Or you can do fresh garlic if you have it available. Fresh garlic would be wonderful. A little bit of dry mustard seed, just grind that up. Probably about a half a teaspoon of that in there. And ground pepper. We also like pepper. Some salt. So a little for each pound of meat, and for the peppers and the onions and the eggs and the ketchup. There we go. And I'm going to use maple syrup. You could use sugar if you had it, but we like maple syrup. So we're just gonna do about half a tablespoon of maple syrup. And vinegar, we are going to use, let's see, about a tablespoon of vinegar. Then the fun part, mix. I find that using your hands is the easiest way to get this done. Now, since you've already got a bowl dirty and chopping board dirty and knife dirty, it doesn't hurt to make a double batch, you know, for whatever of whatever you're going to make. You know, make a second one. You can have it for lunch tomorrow. You could have it in the freezer. You can go ahead and take the meatloaf, once you've got it mixed up like this, put some parchment paper in your baking dish and freeze the meatloaf in the baking dish, and then you can pull it out with the parchment paper and put it in a freezer bag. And then once you decide that you're going to have that for your meal, you can pop it right back into the baking dish to cook it. So let it thaw in there and cook it, and it's ready to go, already in the right shape. All right, one more thing we need. I need to go wash my hands, and many people, I know growing up, my mom always used saltine crackers in her meatloaf. I have used oats. Some people will use breadcrumbs. I use coconut flour. It is gluten-free, and you do not need much. So we're going to put a couple of tablespoons of coconut flour in here, and then we'll let that soak. It takes a few minutes for the coconut flour to soak it up, but we're going to do that one moment. As you can tell, I'm not yet practiced at cooking for an audience, so I did not have all of my things in order here like I should have. That's, yeah, a couple of tablespoons. That looks about right. I also do not usually measure. I usually eyeball, so I'm trying to give you guys measurements. Mix this all up. All right. Now we're going to let let the coconut flour absorb some of the moisture in this, and then I will put it into our baking dishes and bake. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take about half. These pans aren't exactly the same size, but go ahead and take about half in each pan. Super simple, no prep on the pan. There's plenty of fat in the meat that we don't need to do any prep to the pan. It will not stick. So, and lots of yummy vegetables. All right, and into the oven it will go. Okay, I'm putting these into an oven, 425 degrees. It'll take probably half hour to 45 minutes. You can check on those. And because I allowed the meat to come to room temperature beforehand, it should cook evenly. and shouldn't take too long to finish. All right, this has come out of the oven after cooking for about 45 minutes, the 2 pans. So let's give this a try here. First piece is always the hardest one to come out, isn't it? Ooh, nice and hot. And of course it broke apart a little bit. All right, let's give it a try. Very good. Let me know what you think if you give this a try. Or let me know if you've ever made your own ketchup or used coconut flour in your meatloaf. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks.
Please visit the blog post linked in the video description below for more information about this video and the supplies used.